Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's collective illumination reading. This is I Am Illuminated Tarot reading for soul illumination. So, hi, everyone, and welcome. This is a reading to take a look at the general collective energy for the week ahead. It is intuitive. I do sometimes bring up astrology in the readings, but predominantly we're going to go off of the energies that come through in the cards and my intuitive reading from them. Now, we are going to be focused on working with the three principles that I utilize in my practice, which is working with the principles of curiosity, courage, and contemplation, which I call the triad of engagement. All three principles, when we work with them and keep them present in our day-to-day experience, allow us to stay emotionally and spiritually engaged with our life experience. Now we're going to pull a first card here to kind of just get an overall theme for the week. This is like when we have that spare moment as we are going through our day-to-day activities, keeping this message in mind so that we can, again, kind of provide a context for what we're going through in the week and not just allow ourselves to kind of slip on through and kind of forget that every moment is meant to be enjoyed, or at least is meant to provide us with some connection to either others or our life experience in general. So we have two that came out. We have Embrace the In-Between with the Flamingo Spirit, number 26, which breaks down to the number 8 in numerology, which really speaks to empowered leadership. It can speak to personal empowerment. It can also speak to physical abundance. We also have Lay a Solid Foundation with Beaver Spirit with the number 6 highlighted. Now, the number 6 is in reference to, I always like to look at it as the energy of creation in the physical. It is also focused on love, home, and family. So there's a sense here of what we can create when we are coming from the energy of love, which is beautiful when we think about laying a solid foundation. Now, with Embrace the In-Between and Lay a Solid Foundation, there is a sense of us, again, kind of moving at this point in time from one way of being or wrapping up an old cycle as we start to move into a new way of being or starting a new cycle. Now, when we think about starting something new, and we think about kind of stepping out as maybe a new version of ourselves, maybe we've gone through something that has been changing towards how we maybe perceive our life experience, or we might have actually gone through physical changes. We've moved, we've started a new job, we're in a new relationship, something like that. That there's a sense here of as we move into the new, as this new version of ourselves with a new burgeoning perspective, how can we start to lay a solid foundation for this new version of us to kind of start to grow? And how can we do that coming from a place of personal empowerment? When we think about what we would like to see in this next chapter, how can we really bring ourselves into that place of, I will lead from the best parts of myself, as well as I am going to create that new foundation from a place of love and connection to what I like to say with the number 6 as well. There's a sense of what we can build with others when we come together in that sense of spiritual communion. And it doesn't mean it has to be religion. When I say spiritual communion, this could literally just be that like-minded individuals come together in the energy of love to start to build something, whether it's just build friendships, community, connection, or things like a business or growing a hobby. It's a really, I love the energy of the 6, and coupled with the 8, there's a beautiful energy of also change that comes through. 6 and 8 equals 14. 14 reduces to 5, and there's that freedom through change that comes through. Okay, so keep that in mind. We're in the in-between phase. We are wrapping up the old and we are starting the new. Now, that also means that we kind of have to forgive ourselves, right? For when maybe the old version of ourselves wants to creep back in, or doubts based on our previous cycle start to creep in as we start to emerge as this new version of ourselves. And anytime I'm getting the intuitive feeling, those thoughts come up this week, it's really about looking forward, not looking backward. When those kind of, the feelings of, well, what if I get hurt again? Or what if this happens? Or what if the next cycle isn't different than the previous cycle? This is saying you get the chance to step into a more empowered place and to kind of overcome that fear of the future by saying, no, I know I'm moving forward, and I know that I'm going to start to lay a solid foundation for this new version of myself that is focused on really loving the self. So keep that in mind too. There might have to be a little bit of this kind of like forgiving yourself a little bit if you slip back into old habits, or if you really allow the fear to kind of dictate what you're doing. Now, I love this for the element of curiosity. So for the principle of curiosity, we're focusing on the 5th chakra, Archangel Gabriel. Number 39, which breaks down to the number 12, that is the God number for me. That is the number that there's a wholeness to it. It includes the number 6, 4, and 2, which for me are the God triad. I probably will do a separate video on that for those of you who are interested in numerology. But there's a sense here of divinity, of speaking truth, because the 5th chakra rules the throat. There's a sense of also getting into that creative place with the number 12 breaking down to the number 3. And the number 3 is all about creativity. It's about speaking. It's about being seen. That can be a number that's all about performing as well. And it can be also about greeting life with the innocence of a child. Now, with the 5th chakra coming in as where we're going to be curious. Now, curiosity opens the door. It broadens our perspective. It kind of broadens our peripheral vision to expand so that we can see new opportunities. We can see a little further down that road. We get curious as to what is outside of kind of that day-to-day tunnel vision we get stuck in. And here there's something around communication, around communicating truth as well. So for many of us this week, this is going to be about how can we start to be curious about how we can change when we think about the number 8 and the embrace the in-between, how can we start to speak from a place of personal empowerment? How can we, and when we think about the truth as well, so that number 39 and the number 12 coming in, speaking from a place of divinity, speaking from a place of personal truth. But doing so when we really think about communication, there is a power in what we communicate. There is a sense of what we speak comes into being. And it's not just, the secret or the power of manifestation. It's that yes, there is that is part of it, but it's more about the more we speak something, the more we ourselves believe it. So the more that we start to speak about new plans we're engaging with in a positive way, the more we start to believe and feel that positive things are going to happen. We get ourselves excited as we speak to others in an excited way, or an impassioned way. If we want to see more love and light in this world, we can start to speak to the beauty of our day-to-day experience, the love and the amazing things we might have experienced between two people. This would be like saying, instead of speaking about how negative everything in the world is going, this would be about learning the empowered element of raising your own vibration through speaking about positive things that are happening in the world. And there is a beauty in this, and again, a power. Now, Taurus, as an astrological sign, does rule the 5th chakra, rules the throat chakra. Now, we did just this last weekend on the 28th, we went through a very powerful full moon eclipse in the sign of Taurus, which has wrapped up pretty much everything we've gone through, a major life lesson that we've gone through since November 2021. That was the start of the kind of cycle as the nodes were shifting into Taurus and Scorpio, the moon nodes. They have since left and have now moved into Aries and Libra. So this was like the culmination on the 28th of everything you went through since that time to say, okay, what was the lesson learned? What was the gifts given? And what is it we are now releasing to be able to move forward into the new? So this could be like something major, happened at that time in November, and you're like, oh my gosh, I became a parent. I lost my job. I made the decision to move someplace else. It's those kinds of things that could come up, and now it was the culmination of that. But with Taurus ruling the throat chakra, this might be now where we are speaking to what we accomplished or what we achieved, or even a lesson learned, or the difficulty that we went through, and how it has made us stronger and how it is changing our vision for our future self. So keep that in mind. Be curious this week as to where your words can open doors or bring something out of the periphery kind of front and center into your experience this week that might help you be able to lay the solid foundation for this new vision of yourself. This could be where you attract a new friend or a new, even a coworker or something like that into your experience because you simply are speaking from something that you are passionate about, speaking through life experience, and suddenly someone comes in from the side and says, me too. Hey, do you want to do this together? Or let's, bond over this. There's something around that coming through. Now we have 2 coming out here for the concept of courage. Now, courage is also a very powerful concept. It is one in which we need courage to act in our day-to-day life. Without courage, when we think about it, courage is a very personal, we give courage a very personal definition, because for some people who are going through very difficult experiences in their life, courage could literally just be having the courage to get up out of bed in the morning. Courage could be, for some people, literally going on the front line to war. Courage could be someone finally getting on social media and showing their face to the world and speaking their truth. Courage is different to all of us, but every day we take action from a place of courage. And courage is what allows us to have hope, because when we have the courage to act, that shows that we have hope for the future. That shows that we are courageously we're getting up out of bed because we have hope that there is something worth getting out of bed for. Now, this week for courage, we have Warrior Woman. It says, have you answered your deepest calling? Now, obviously, for those of you who do not identify as a woman, this is more about getting in touch with that warrior inside. You can see she's holding her sword of truth, which is very similar to the Ace of Swords in the tarot. And the Ace of Swords is a revelation. It's clarity around something that we needed to see in our life experience, a truth about our experience that we needed to have come through. And there's a sense when it says, have you answered your deepest calling? There is, coupled with the 5th chakra, there's that sense here of maybe having the courage to speak on something that does directly kind of cut to that soul purpose-driven feeling within, to say, maybe I'm going to start to talk a little bit about a deep calling that I'm feeling called towards. Because how better to lay a solid foundation for something than when we start to openly not only admit it to ourselves that we have this calling, but we start to share it with others. Now we have Keepers of the Earth. It says, you are not alone. Ancient ancestors stand beside you. And this is a beautiful, very comforting message to come through, to say that whether you believe that these are divine in nature, that these are angels or literally ancestral wisdom coming through to support you, or this is actually saying you're not alone. There are others around you on this earthly plane who want to support you, who also have a similar calling. And again, we attract those people who have similar callings, similar passions, similar outlooks by speaking and by having the courage to speak. And there is that sense of saying, the spirit coming in and saying, you're not alone. And the more that you speak, the more that you have the courage and the clarity on your personal truth and how to speak and share that with others and take action from that place, the more you will find that you are supported. So beautiful energy. This is a very powerful, I feel, it's a very powerful week. But there is that sense of, again, with the embracing the in-between, realizing that we kind of are not fully out of one and not fully in another either. And so this might feel awkward to us. It might feel like we might even get in touch with that calling this week. And it's like, oh my gosh, there might be a circumstance that prompts you to speak on it. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll check it out. Now, we have never-ending story as contemplation. This is a beautiful point to have as a point of contemplation. So number 37 breaks down to the number 10, further breaks down to the number 1. There's a sense of completion, of an ending of a cycle and the beginning of a new. But with the never-ending story, this card really speaks to just that we don't want to bring into the next cycle a story that we feel, especially with, you look at this picture, she has her heart, it looks like trapped inside of an hourglass. That there's this sense of bringing forward into the next cycle a story of pain or loss. And this would be like saying, my heart always gets broken, and then bringing that into the next cycle. And it's saying it's time for us to release anything negative. Now, I am going to quickly, before I pull a couple clarifiers and wrap this up for the week, I'm going to just read the little excerpt that comes with this, because I do love how these are written for this. So it says, essential meanings: self-criticism, the wounded ego, unnecessary dramas. The oracle's message: there is a story woven through the imperfect fabric of life that tells of hurt and loss, rejection and humiliation, self-loathing and arrogance, and all manner of suffering born of unnecessary dramas. It is the old story whose refrain is that you cannot do this, must not go there, should not say that, lest your world come crumbling down. Today, know that none of that is actually true. The sky is not falling. The voice you hear is just a small, scared, conditioned part of you that got stuck in a lie, wants to protect you, and needs to be seen as a victim. Love that lost piece of you. Fear is all it knows. Distorted guidance is preventing you from being true to yourself. You are not your story, and the narrator is simply the voice of your fearful part, small and vulnerable and easily soothed. I love this because it really speaks to everything I was saying here. There's an element of that old fearful version of ourselves kind of still creeping in as we're embracing this in-between phase. And we get the chance to really see, I think, that part of ourselves this week in a new light, in the light of a new truth, in the light that we can be courageous enough to see it, to have the courage to say, I'm not taking that part of myself. I'm ending that story here. I'm choosing to do so. Now, with contemplation is a very important principle as well, because contemplation is what allows us to learn lessons. It what allows us to really be able to reflect on what we've done in the day, so we don't just go through the day and then wake up the next day and lose a whole day of not being able to reflect on what happened, good and bad, learning lessons and pulling those forward. There's a sense as well with contemplation that it allows us to not repeat cycles or not repeat things that continually wound us, because we are in a place of being aware where we say, you know what, after reflecting on what happened in this moment, I'm going to say I didn't get the most positive response. And so maybe I need to tweak a little bit about how I communicate my truth, or how I communicate from this point forward. Or, I went ahead and I did this and I realized it didn't make me feel great. So now I'm going to change how I act tomorrow. I'm not going to do that again. And there's a sense here of really being able to bring forward the best possible parts of contemplation to allow us to really kind of put to bed anything that's part of a negative, never-ending story in our life, and to really allow that fearful version of ourselves to come up and to pick up the sword now to become the warrior within. That wounded part doesn't have to stay wounded or buried. It can actually come to light, and that is going to be maybe the most powerful version of ourselves now as we move forward. I'm going to pull just a couple clarifiers real fast just to see. I'm actually going to go ahead here and pull for the 5th chakra. I'm curious to see what's going on with communication. So we have the 8 of Swords. We might need to communicate where we are feeling a little stuck. That's a little too many cards. So I'm going to see if I can get just 1 or 2, please. So yeah, I'm getting the feeling very much that with the 5th chakra coming through, this is really about stating too many cards again. Sorry, guys. I think I'm just going to stick with this one because that's what's intuitively coming through. Any place you've been feeling stuck, this is a perfect week to communicate that to either a significant other in your life, possibly a workplace. This may be even speaking to others about how you were unable to see a way forward, how you had felt stuck, and how you are now extricating yourself out of that, or this is a great place to be curious as well about if you're feeling stuck or unable to see a way forward in a specific area of your life, but an area that you would like to have transformed, or you'd like to lay a new foundation towards the new, to speak on it and to see who comes in for you. But this could also be on the other side, especially with warrior women coming in. Have you answered your deepest calling? This could be where some of you are actually learning to speak about how you have overcome a way of maybe not being able to see a way forward or feeling stuck. And this could be a great teaching cycle for you, for others. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to pull a card here for Warrior Woman. Oh, I love it. There's the High Priestess. Well, what better card to come out for Warrior Woman than the High Priestess? This is all about connecting to that intuitive knowing within. This is about really sitting in that kind of place of quiet solitude, going in to tap into universal wisdom and really feel the way forward, making that decision. The High Priestess is the number 2. The number 2s in the tarot represent making decisions. And the High Priestess, she has made a decision based on her deep knowing, and she trusts that. So there's a power coming through with us being able to, again, have you answered your deepest calling. Well, that deepest calling comes from that intuitive urge. Okay, and let's see about the never-ending story. What's coming through for that? Any additional messages here? Anything for the never-ending story? We have the Chariot. Yeah, there's a sense of finally moving forward. Just wanted to see if I like something else. No, it's not. Finally moving forward. The Chariot is where we get back in the driver's seat of our life and we get our head and our heart in alignment and we get moving. And so wherever there's an area in your life where maybe you have felt stuck, the 8 of Swords, there's a chance now this week to really get the wheels rolling and continue forward. The beautiful thing about the Chariot is all about, it harnesses the energy of Cancer. And Cancer as a sign rules home and family, rules the 4th house in the zodiac wheel. And there's a sense of really bringing that into the energy of this card, in that one of the underlying principles of the Chariot is that we get in the driver's seat of our chariot and we start to move our chariot forward again towards our final resting place, the final place for us that feels ultimately like home. And so there is this sense of kind of in this next cycle of really getting from a place of personal empowerment and deep intuition, getting kind of our wheels unstuck and starting to move forward again with more clarity and vision towards what feels like that ultimate sense of home for us. Beautiful energy. Bottom of the deck, we have the King of Pentacles. There's that Taurus energy again coming through. What do we value? How do we show in our life through where we dedicate our time, our energy, our financial resources? How do we show what we value? And how do we also understand the value that we bring in our physical experience? That is the lesson that we learned up through October 28th. So just a couple days ago, that was the whole lesson of what we learned from November 21st or November 2021 to this time. And that's kind of at the heart of this. What do you value in the physical? What do you want to experience? And what is your value that you know now about yourself that you can start to apply in the next cycle to build this solid foundation? What are you building for yourself in the physical based off of what you now realize you value and what your value is? Now, for those of you, I was meaning to do it last week and I didn't get a chance to do it. I was going to do a separate post where I was going to blog and put up some, talk about some journal points for those of you who want to really stay focused on this energy and really get the most out of this week, especially in looking at contemplation. Just due to time constraints, I'm not going to be able to post a separate video, but I am going to put in the description box below journal points. So for those of you who do like to journal or just want to start bringing a little more awareness from the start of the week to the end of the week, I will put some journal points in there for you. They can also be used as meditative points. So if you want to just sit quietly and you have that time to reflect, you can use these two as just a point of reflecting back on the week to really integrate what happened. And again, make use of the energies here and not let time just kind of slip by without really being able to engage with it. All right, everyone. I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead. I do continue to post individual energy sign readings throughout the week. So for those of you who would like to have an individual reading for your sign's energy, you can subscribe to the channel and you'll see when I post those videos. Otherwise, I will see you all next week for the next weekly collective reading. Bye, everyone.